Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. So glad you are joining us. Also, I got a very exciting announcement. That is, I have a brand new book coming out. It's called Overcoming Overwhelmed. You can get it on Amazon. It's going to be available on November 13th, but we are taking pre-sales. So you can go onto Amazon, pre-order your book, and it will be available on November 13th. And what we're going to be doing with this proceeds from this book is we're going to be taking a large portion of what comes in for the sales, and we're going to use that to pay for translation into other languages such as Spanish, Chinese, Farsi, and other languages. And we're going to be putting this book in those foreign languages and making it available for free around the world to non-native English speakers. And we're going to use this as an outreach tool. So just know, as you're purchasing this book, proceeds from the book are going to be going to help take this book and give it away free to other nations and other languages around the world. My goal is to give away $1 million worth of value in this ebooks that we give away around the world. So you can get blessed by the book. There's a lot of great information in there. At the same time, you're going to be helping take the gospel around the world. So thank you for helping us do that. Wanted to give you just a kind of a little couple sneak peeks in the book. We're going to be having a whole chapter on vision. We have a great chapter on goals. This book is designed to be very practical and at the same time to be very deep, biblically lay a strong, healthy doctrine and strong biblical theology on often why we are overwhelmed in our life. There's a lot of great character studies inside of here, and I just know this book is really going to be a blessing to you. Today I want to talk about really kind of the concept of overwhelmed from the book, and I talk about a story about how I was in a church lobby, and pretty much, actually, this is pretty much every week. When I'm out in the church lobby, I'll meet someone, shake their hands, and I always like to go, "Hey, how's it going?" And I hear this every weekend. "Hey, I'm just so busy, Pastor, so busy, so busy." And you know what? I get it, because I feel the exact same way. The challenge is what we feel as Americans often is we wear busy as a badge of honor. Like it's really honoring to be able to go, "I'm busy," because who wants to go, "I'm doing nothing, I'm kind of just sitting around wasting my life looking for something to do." But when we say busy, it makes us sound important. It makes us have a sense of significance. I like what a professor in leisure studies did from Iowa State University. I actually didn't even know you could get a degree in leisure studies, but had they told me that coming out of high school, I might have gone after that one. I do like leisure. But busy is considered to be one of the 7 deadly sins. Now, if you grew up in the Catholic Church, you know the 7 deadly sins, and you're going, "Hey, you know what? I remember the 7 deadly sins. That's not one of them." There was sluggard or slothful, but not the 7 deadly sins, one of them being busy. But according to this professor, the word busy inside of the Middle Ages actually, surprisingly, didn't just mean slothful. Yes, it meant that, but it had a second meaning, and it was applied to a person who was busy yet producing nothing, meaning they had a lot of activity, but they achieved no results. So often we feel that we're producing many results because we're busy. We think we're having great success, but in reality, many of us aren't. We're busy working on the wrong things. We're busy doing things that don't produce results. I like what one person said. You might have heard me say it before. "The mosquito is swatted, the bee is praised." Both are busy, both are flapping their wings, but one is just annoying and the other one is producing something sweet. In our culture, most of us are just annoying mosquitoes, and we're just busy buzzing everywhere, sucking the life out of other people. And we also have a bunch of life suckers trying to take away our life as well. So let's talk about just this practical side of busy for a moment. What drives busy? What drives us to be overwhelmed with busy? Because if you really look at your schedule, most of it's self-inflicted. Most of it are things you said yes to. Most of it is things you actually have control over. So what drove you to say yes to some things that you should have said no to? It comes down to this for many of us, and I've battled this, and I'll probably still continue to battle this throughout my life, and that is I derive a sense of self-worth, a sense of self-importance by having an overly busy life. And what it really comes down to is a misplaced belief regarding Jesus. What it really comes down to is me not truly believing that Jesus is everything that I need and that Jesus alone defines my value and my worth. It's me misplacing value by thinking I'm valuable because I produced this. I'm valuable because I did a podcast. I'm valuable because I wrote a book. I'm valuable because we have a large church. I'm valuable because people want to meet with me to have a counseling appointment. None of those things make me more valuable, and not having those things make me less valuable. My value is simply determined by Jesus. Value is really determined by what someone is willing to pay for something. Jesus paid the ultimate price by giving his life for me. Therefore, there's nothing I can do to become more valuable. There's nothing I can do to become less valuable because Jesus determined my worth when he gave his life for me. When we learn to rest in the fact that we're already valuable, that we're already significant to the King of Kings, I don't have to build a life and a schedule that tries to communicate to others I am valuable. When I can just rest in the fact of who I am in Christ Jesus, then I can build a schedule out of a place of rest, out of a place of knowing who I am in Christ, rather than trying to prove something to somebody whose opinion actually doesn't matter, that I have some kind of value. Colossians chapter 2:9 says, "For in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete in him, who is the head of all principality and power." I'm complete in Jesus Christ. And if I'm close to Jesus, my life is full, because all the fullness of the Godhead dwells in Jesus. The farther I get from Jesus, the less full I feel. And often what happens is an overfilled life really is an empty life, because it really is just a symptom of being far away from Jesus. Because I'm far away from Jesus, I feel empty, so I better go ahead and fill up my life with a bunch of things. But once you realize everything is found in Christ, and you draw close to Christ, and you know that you're complete in Christ, what happens is now you feel full. And because you feel full, you don't feel obligated to have to fill your life and your schedule with a bunch of things that you think fulfill you, but never really do. So that's just a little nugget I wanted to share with you. Just stop. If you feel overwhelmed, if you just feel overbooked, overscheduled, just stop and ask, are you really resting in the completeness that you have in Christ? Are you resting in the fact that there's nothing you can do to add value and nothing you can do to make you less valuable, because in Christ Jesus, you're complete, you're full, and you have value?
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at ericlawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.